Welcome to the January 27th, 2015 meeting of the Troy Planning Commission. Copies of the agenda for tonight's meeting are available at the entrance to the room. Additionally, the agendas and minutes of prior meetings are available on the city's website. The meeting will be conducted in accordance with the agenda as presented or amended by the Planning Commission. The roles and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are outlined on the reverse side of tonight's agenda. State law establishes Planning Commission. The commission is comprised of 9 members, all of whom have volunteered to serve. Members are appointed by the mayor and confirmed by City Council. The other individuals seated at the table this evening are representatives of the city's planning department, the city attorney's office, and the city's planning consultant, Carlisle Wortman Associates. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please come forward when recognized and provide your name and address on the sign-in sheet. Please begin your remarks by stating your name for the benefit of the commissioners. All remarks are to be addressed to the Planning Commission and not to anyone else in the room. At this time, I ask that all cell phones, BlackBerries, PDAs, or any other devices that might disrupt this meeting please either be placed in silent mode or be turned off. Ms. Zarnicki, the roll call, please.
Ms. Cruz? Here. Mr. Edmonds?
Here.
Mr. Hudson?
Here.
Mr. Krent?
Here.
Mr. Zanzika?
Here.
Mr. Stratt?
Here.
Mr. Tagle?
Here. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a resolution to approve the agenda or amend?
Move the agenda is submitted.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Stratt?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz? Yes.
Item 3 is the minutes of the January 13th, 2015. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes or amend them as corrected? Mr. Stratt, seconded by Mr. Tagle.
Mr. Hudson?
Yes.
Mr. Krent?
Yes.
Mr. Zanzika?
Yes.
Mr. Stratt?
Yes.
Mr. Tagle?
Yes.
Ms. Cruz?
Yes.
Mr. Edmonds?
Yes. Number 4 is public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the audience who has a comment on something that is not on the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move to 5, Zoning Board of Appeals report. That would be you, Mr. Krent.
We did not meet because there's no items up for our agenda.
Okay, very good. And number 6 is the Downtown Development Authority, the DDA report.
They did not meet in January, so there's no report.
Okay. Number 7 is the Planning and Zoning report.
Yeah, this one, I've got a few items here. So in your agenda packet, you noticed there was a report, Planning Commission report for 2014. That's required by state law that we prepare one of those for council to kind of update them in terms of what we were involved with for 2014. And when you put it together, we were busy. We did a lot. We accomplished a lot in 2014. And there's also an economic development report that Glenn Lapin presented last night to City Council. It summarizes the fourth quarter and some of the economic activity that he's been involved with because there was overlap with planning. Also last night, Ali Epahedian and Padma Cooper were both appointed to the Planning Commission. They're not in attendance this evening, but they're officially on the Planning Commission. They'll be receiving some training from Lori next week. I'll talk to them to prepare them for the Planning Commission, and then it'll be full steam ahead with the full board. So I'm excited about having 2 new members. And finally, I don't know if anyone, I know Mr. Evans watched City Council last night. I made a presentation for the 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan. There's a hard copy here if anyone wants to look at it. Basically, 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan is it's required by the State Michigan Department of Natural Resources if the community wants to seek MDNR funding. And there's the largest grant that's out there is called the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. It's an 80-20 grant. The state provides up to 80%, the city provides up to 20%. And for development projects, you can seek up to $300,000 for each individual development project. It's very competitive, and the state prioritizes trailways and pathways. And if you've been paying attention, the city's looking at developing a paths and trailway system, including some rights of way to essentially connect this campus area all the way up to across South Boulevard into Auburn Hills and connect to the Clinton River Trail. That's kind of a long-term vision, and without a Parks and Recreation plan, you cannot apply for funding. So I don't know if we're going to apply or not. It's non-binding. We don't have to do anything. It's good for 5 years, then it expires. But if anyone wants to look at it, the link's available on the agenda of last night's city council meeting. If you want me to email it to you, I can. Whatever I can do to get this document in your hands, I will.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
I see that.
It's large. We may have to use send it to physically send it if we can't email it, but we'll look into it to get it to everybody. Any questions about anything?
Now, we'll move to agenda item number 8, preliminary site plan review, file number SP1002. Propose the Mark of Troy, southeast corner of Maple and Axtell at 2785 West Maple, Section 32, currently zoned IB, Integrated Business, Integrated Industrial and Business District. Who will begin tonight?
I'll handle it, to start off with. Thank you and good evening to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission should be familiar with this project. I think this is the second or third time, maybe the third or fourth time actually. You've seen it. This is the first time we actually have received a full site plan application. The previous reviews were conceptually only. The last time the Planning Commission reviewed this plan, it was last month, and this plan is pretty consistent with what the Planning Commission last reviewed. Starting off, I do want to thank the applicant. They have worked diligently with us and other members of the staff to get this application in and address our concerns and the Planning Commission's concerns that were raised at the last meeting. There were a number of changes to the plan, and some of these were minor, some were major. Some of the minor changes were that the applicant did rearrange the interior courtyard area. They have resubmitted revised elevations based on the comments from the Planning Commission. They have provided streetscape along Axtell and Maple as requested, and they have provided a bioswale along both the southern and eastern property lines of the development. The largest changes were due to the traffic study that was required as part of this development. And the first significant change, you have the
I do. I can hold the plan up if you want to compare. I'll stand over there.
Thank you, Vanna. You were asking for
We'll
it.
talk after. How's that? How am I doing?
I can see you guys see. The first significant change is the applicant has eliminated the central access off of Maple Road. This was a request by actually our engineering department and confirmed with the traffic study that this is a better distribution of traffic. As a result, all site traffic will be located off of Axtell Road. The other major changes as a result of the traffic study was the applicant is required by the Road Commission, who actually they own and control Maple Road, to align Axtell along the southern portion of it as well as the northern portion. It's hard to tell at first, but the northern portion of Axtell is offset to the east a number of feet than the existing southern portion of Axtell. So the applicant is actually bringing down or bringing east the portion of Axtell Road to align up with the northern end. As a result of those changes, the applicant has slightly had to modify their site plan in this corner of the development to meet setbacks off of Axtell as well as setbacks off of Maple. And the plans that were in your packet don't reflect these changes. However, this new site plan does reflect the changes as a result of that. The third major change as a result of the traffic study is the applicant is going to be required to install a traffic light at Maple and Axtell. We had a meeting with the Road Commission on Friday. They have a major concern about moving farther west about the intersection of Coolidge and Maple, and specifically the left-hand turn lane from Maple south to Coolidge. And they note that it backs up during peak hours past Axtell. They are not going to allow a signal to be installed at this intersection until there's improvements to the Coolidge intersection moving forward. There's no timetable when that improvement's going to be made, but they think that adding a light at this location will exacerbate the problem at Coolidge. So what they're going to do is they're going to have the applicant put the money for this light in escrow until such time that they make the Coolidge improvements and then install this light in the future. Does that seem clear?
Yes, it is.
What did they say the improvements on Coolidge would be?
They're going to have to add a secondary turn lane, left-hand turn lane, double left turn lane.
Go southbound on Coolidge.
Which might require increased right-of-way and other. So I think Brent said the cost, the estimate was between $800,000 to 5 million for those improvements.
Is that correct, Steve, roughly?
About 1.3.
1.3?
So we don't know when that's gonna occur, but but for the meantime, we're gonna hold this money in escrow until that does get done, and then this will be installed. In addition, the city engineering department, as well as the road commission, is requiring the applicant to put in 2 outbound lanes out of Axtell, one for left-hand turns and one for right-hand turns. And so the applicants actually had to widen the Axtell throat at Maple Road as a result of that. I do want to make us note that they have shifted the road farther east. They note this area here is, they're proposing for landscaping or other improvements. That is Axtell is a city road that's city right-of-way. They're gonna have to work with the engineering department about what the engineering department might allow in this location. And also, the Chinese restaurant does have 2 points of access and ingress and egress at this location. So they want to make sure they'll have to work with the Chinese restaurant for these improvements as well. So I do want to note this is on the plan. It has not been confirmed or approved by the engineering department. So those are the significant changes to the plan. In terms of the layout, other than these 2 buildings, the site plan really has not changed much at all from the last time the Planning Commission has seen it. In fact, there are some small changes internally, and we find that those actually do improve site circulation and site layout. So we do support all the proposed changes. We do support the plan, we do support the changes. However, we note that as a result of the traffic study, as well as the meeting with the road commission, the applicant wasn't able to revise all their plans to reflect the changes of the road on Axtell shifting. And as a result, the landscape plan, lighting plan, et cetera, haven't been updated accordingly. So with that said, we do recommend that the applicant resubmit a full set of plans indicating all the changes to the site as a result. And so this matter, we do recommend it be tabled until the applicant do so, but we do think that they are moving in the right direction and have done everything we've asked them to do at this point.
We also, the Planning Commission has seen this twice, but it's only been on a conceptual level. Before they took the plunge of updating all the drawings, we wanted to discuss it this evening. If there's any other changes, they can incorporate those changes into the whole set of plans so that they're doing it once, not twice.
Any questions for the consultant? Mr. Tagle.
Engineering getting involved with the Axtell shifting and the access to the restaurant, is that going to be part of the development before the plans are updated and resubmitted?
In terms of, I would say no. I would say that the final determination of what's going to happen at location would not be determined when the applicant's trying to seek preliminary site plan approval with the Planning Commission. They want to move as fast as possible. I assume they want to move within the next month or so, and so I don't think we'll have the time to work out the details along landscaping along the Chinese restaurant.
Is that because the engineering department can't move that fast, or, I mean, I guess, what's...
I think it was because it was thrown on plans and the engineering department hasn't even been approached with this concept yet.
But they've seen the plan, right?
They've seen the plan, they have not studied the detail about this is showing, it just simply says landscaping, et cetera, there's no detail. The applicant hasn't had a meeting with the engineering department to talk about what this might involve. There's a lot more details that need to be considered for this area in light of what they're proposing when we don't have the time right now to get it done before when they want approval for the preliminary site plan.
So that would be in the final site plan approval done by the director? Once the details are worked out, I mean, would that be something, Brent, that you would approve?
Yeah, I would be involved, but it's this is one of those kind of those gray areas where it's an off-site improvement as per the site plan we're looking at, but at the same time, it's part of a whole package for this intersection.
Just know, the city is not requiring him to do this. The applicant is doing this because of site issues and other issues that they feel it's appropriate for them to address this by putting increased landscaping. It's at their cost, it's at their effort. The city itself is not promoting this landscaping at all.
Just to follow up to that, I guess I don't quite understand the logic. If Axtell already is paved to the west right there, wouldn't it be better to have 3 lanes of traffic exiting, for traffic rather than landscaping? I guess, what is the logic behind that?
Well, there'll be one southbound lane and a northbound lane for turning left and a northbound lane for turning right.
Okay.
So there will be 3. And yeah, and.
And also, it aligns,
So there is-
eliminate, it aligns directly up with the
Yeah.
northern
All right,
part of Axtell.
thank you. Any other questions? Mr. Grant?
Just want to comment a couple things on the engineering part, not so much the site plan itself, but the traffic. One is, I'm sure the engineers have worked out the radius of that right-hand turn going from on Maple, going eastbound on Maple onto Axtell going south. But since there's a lot of large trucks, there's a depot at the very southern end of this road, I just want to make sure that they accommodate for trucks with long trailers on them, so we don't have them going over the curb.
Mhm.
I've seen that happen too many times at different locations. One other thought is I'm really excited about the intersection at Maple and Coolidge being two left-hand turn lanes, because that does back up horribly, and I've been caught in that for at least 4 or 5 light changes before I get through that intersection. That's great news. Other than that,
It's great news, but they don't have the budget. They don't have the budget for it either.
There, so what it basically does right now with one lane, there's only one lane, turn lane to store cars.
Yep.
So they back up. So the simple math, you double the lanes, you double the storage, so you get as much storage with half as much length, and, so that will go a long way. The reason it's expensive, besides the physical work that has to be done to the lights, there's utility work, and there's a lot that goes into this.
I'm glad to see they're moving, at least moving forward in that direction.
And this is challenging, Axtell is challenging. You don't realize when you go out there, it's a 28-foot wide street, so it's a built a standard city street, but it's in only a 30-foot right-of-way there. Our standard's 60 feet. So what happened was, when this property, here's here, when the property to the west was platted, the city picked up 30 feet with the idea in 1941 that we're going to pick up the other 30 in time. Well, they built a 28-foot street inside the 30-foot right-of-way. So it looks like it's standard, but it's substandard by 30 feet. So this is a pre-existing condition that's been in place for 70-some years. So we have that challenge as well. So when it comes to alignment, getting this road to line up here, now we have to get more right-of-way. But we don't need it for the whole length. We can accommodate the utilities and the sidewalk and easements, so we don't affect it negatively too badly. But so there's some challenges. This brings with it some challenges.
Mr. Hudson?
I'd like to emphasize what Trent just said about the right turn. If you take a look at the 7-Eleven, excuse me, at Crooks and Waddles, you'll see that corner has got double wide marks across the lawn because those trucks just can't make, they try not to make that turn. It looks terrible. You can't keep repairing it because they're going to keep running over it, and I'd be very concerned about that.
So we actually talked about this, if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
We actually talked about this on Friday. The applicant is aware of the turning radius issue, and that's, the reason for the landscaping, and we're looking at potentially, it's just discussing, I don't know what the answer is, maybe closing this lane or shifting it. We want to make it safer and more aesthetically pleasing. And again, that's gonna take cooperation with the neighbor, and it's gonna be at Mr. Schaefer's expense probably, but these are some of the things he's thinking about.
Mr. Stratt?
Yeah, the area that you were talking about for landscaping. Did I hear you correctly, that engineering was going to control that?
No, I think it's kind of in flux right now. I think, I'm not going to speak for Mr. Schaefer, he's here, but I believe this was an idea he's had since he first was looking at the site. It's kind of a tired area right here,
Absolutely.
and he wants to give it a shot in the arm from an aesthetic.
I don't know that engineering should have control over it
Mike-
rather than you.
It's in the city right of way.
I fully understand that.
So if it's
I
in the
fully
right of way,
understand
we
that.
control it. We can't simply give up control of stuff in the
Why
right of way,
not?
so. What's that?
Why not?
You give them an easement, a license.
Oh.
I don't know why you can't control, you have any I don't know why, I can understand we have to cooperate, but I'd rather have you responsible for it than engineering.
We'll have input.
You know, I hope so, because.
You don't trust the engineer.
Well, we had these colonnade trees, and we had all kinds of things that I think were not really aesthetically pleasing, and.
When I say we, I meant the city as a whole, not,
Not just-
I thought you were referring to the applicant being responsible for it. No, we will work with the applicant, the city with the engineering and planning department, so we'll work together what the future design that's gonna be.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of who owns it, I'm just saying it's in the city, but we own it, we control it. Yeah.
No, or we have.
That was my point. I'm sorry, I thought you said that the applicant would own it, be responsible for it. No, we would take it over.
Yeah,
All of us at the table want the same thing, so.
yeah, good.
Any other comments? Nope. That, we'll hear from the applicant.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Good to be here again. I think we're getting close. We got on board with the road commission. The road commission said you don't have to do anything. But we want to have a light here at some point in the future, and we agreed that we would escrow all those funds, and that we would also align the road. The road commission thought that was a very good idea, because these are offset, so now they're completely lined up. And, what we have done is we've put in those 3 lanes in here, so people that are exiting that want to go right in the morning can go right freely. There may be a little bit of a delay here, so we've put in additional stacking. We've also increased that radius. We did talk to the road commission. The road commission is going to be looking for that, because we do have to get a permit from them for any work that we do within the right-of-way. And the right-of-way falls, somewhere, probably right up in here somewhere. So we did blow this radius out for truck traffic, and we don't want them, hopping over the curb. Currently, this is where the access point is to the Chinese restaurant. We thought if we could move it down, we're gonna have some discussions with him. Actually, I'm planning on going to dinner there when I'm done here. So I'll talk to Alan over there, and we'll see what we can do. But if it has to remain, because it has been granted, it would go through that green belt. But, you probably all have been down there, and the street runs right up to the parking lot, and the parking blocks are right there, and there's, I was concerned because I wanted to have some green space, especially after we moved and got rid of the Maple Road access through here, because that was gonna be our primary access. We knew we had to control the landscaping, but there's really no green up in here. So I think the fact that we're able to shift this road, get this green, is gonna be a good thing, and it'll add, more green to this entryway. And actually, with the setback of this building, it's provided a little bit more green in this area for us to landscape. So when you do come in, it's kind of like a tunnel. We're gonna have some relief and some green, so the eye will, when you're looking over on our side, it's gonna be nicely landscaped. So I think this is something that we can live with. And obviously, we hadn't met with the road commission, but the plans essentially stayed the same. But in the comments, we were 25 feet off the road, we're now 30 feet off the road. The plan they were looking at was 25, so we made those modifications. And we'll be submitting those probably tomorrow or the next day, and we'll be back here in about 2 weeks. One of the other things that we did is we had some discussion last time about the elevation. Obviously, these are large buildings, and we wanted to vary up on some color combinations. We worked with the architect to try to maybe do every building, and we just thought it was gonna look a little bit too much. So we came up with some nice contrasting colors where the buildings look similar, but we have some contrasting colors to it, so we'll be able to break it up a little bit, but not have it be too loud or too obvious that we, have changed all the elevations. So that's what he came up with over here. And then Naderville just did a typical landscape. You'll be seeing full landscape plans when we're back here in 2 weeks to present. So that's about it. Oh, one other thing that was added since you last looked, we had talked about bicycles and storage and all that. We worked with our architects, and what we did is we expanded the foundation enough to put in lockers inside the garage area, so individuals will be able to have a locker in front of their car. So it'll be wide enough where there's an area where they have a locker, there'll be a sidewalk in front of the car, you'll be able to walk and you'll be able to open up and have a locker down there. So we made a slight modification on that since you last saw it. But other than that, you know, the plans pretty much stayed the same. And, you know, we're hopeful that we can make justification for light once this goes in. I believe the city has an opportunity to apply for projects. The road commission said this, you know, the improvements at Coolidge could potentially get moved up on the list. But, you know, we'll just have to keep trying to lobby the road commission to put the light in. It wasn't, they agreed that the light would help and that it would be a great thing to have here, but what they said is we weren't really exasperating the problem, but the problem is if cars are coming through this intersection, they're blocked, you know, they're lined up, and we had a light there that someone could get stuck with a light in an intersection. So they just said, let's just wait until we make the improvements. And we agreed that we put up the money for the light for the future. So the funds are there, and it's something we can hopefully have at some point in the future. So that's about it. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman? Mr. Savitt?
Steve, the landscaping on the property that you own to the east, will you be at a point in 2 weeks that you'll have a better idea of how you want to handle the landscaping?
Yeah, we'll submit something. We understand that engineering may comment, or if there's some meeting or discussions we should have before we lay that out. I don't think there's a real site issue with this piece of landscaping because you're not really blocking anything. I'm just screening this parking lot. Yeah, so there'll be a landscape plan in here. We'll have some additional green in here. We're not gonna start sticking real large trees or anything up in the.
And to follow up on that question, you'll use the same landscape architect in that area as you will on your site to make sure, for consistency?
Yes, yes,
So it's
absolutely.
correct species?
It'll
or-
come in, yeah, it'll come in with a, you know, a consistent plan, and we're redoing the landscape up in here too. You know, this was all very, I kind of like this relief a little bit on Axtell. I think it's, you know, it's not parking, it's not cars, it's green, which currently doesn't exist on that corridor. So,
Mr. Zenzi?
Did the road commission give you any idea how long it would take to make the improvements at Coolidge and Maple?
They said, well, we have things budgeted for the next 25 years. We'll just have to bring the project forward. He didn't say it couldn't move up, we just have to make the argument. So I was actually sitting next to your traffic engineer, and he said, look, when we have the opportunities to ask for those things, apply, we'll try to get this moved up on a schedule. It would really be,
How far down have you scheduled now, do you know?
I mean, it's really not scheduled at this point. We haven't.
They had the last 2 years, or?
As a project. They said we could get it on as early as, you know, maybe a couple of years from now when the next sort of big round of projects will be considered. I think everything's allocated up until now. You know, I was going to, you know, I'm friendly with Mr. Gibb at the county, and I, you know, hopefully I have some contacts to Brooks. I mean, I'd love, as a landlord and as somebody who's gonna have something on the corridor, I know it's separate from the city, but I really want to try to lobby them to look at it, and if we can get help from the city as well, I think that type of improvement might be able to at least get on somebody's radar screen. I don't know if we're gonna have much.
But that's commendable, I
Success.
do appreciate that, that'd
Yeah.
be a great improvement there.
Mr. Stratt?
Yeah, I just had 2 comments. I hope that in that landscaped area that we were talking about, the northern part, I hope you would create some trees, some umbrellas of some sort.
You're talking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean, here I can, it's
Yeah,
just,
but that's just a
before,
comment.
actually, the green went, before they had me increase the radius, I have a little bit more green up in here. But we'll probably have something low growing here, but something very tall with maybe, I mean, I'd almost like to do like an arborvitae hedge with some kind of neo-traditional trim hedge in front of it to
That would
really
be nice.
block.
And the other
that
comment I
and
wanted to
see
make
the car
was,
wash.
I really have to compliment your civil engineer on the bioswale. Did you look at those?
Yeah, I did.
Did you look at the detail on that? That was really, really great, I have to compliment. But on, I think, the south side, I thought I saw some landscaping there where you had some trees in the bioswale. I thought that that's not gonna work too well. I
No.
didn't think, you know, if
And
you
we
do.
do want to try to preserve what we can, what's existing, so, you know, I am going to be addressing that on final when we go to engineering. and-
That's great. These are nice shots.
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
No, we're really excited about the project. I think that, you know, I went over to Regency Park and, you know, they only have 4 out of 300 apartments, there's like 4 vacancies. And the day that I was there looking, there were probably 7 or 8 people that all wanted to see units, and they only had, they had like 3 3-bedrooms and 1 1-bedroom. All the 2 bedrooms were leased, and you know, I was very surprised, and I was very surprised at the, you know, the amount of money that they're charging for rents there.
What are you targeting, seniors?
Senior empty nesters, young professionals, you know, maybe even a divorced parent that maybe has kids for part of the time in the 3-bedroom type units. I think the 2-bedroom, we'll have 2-bedroom units with a den, and we'll have 1-bedroom units with a den options. So there'll be some variety. You know, I'm looking at, there's some great new products out there for showers that don't have a threshold, and they actually have a grill, and the floors are pitched, so if you're in a wheelchair, if you're older, you don't have to step over the threshold to get in the shower. Things that are a little bit more user-friendly. We're looking to do some, you know, contemporary type cabinets, try to get some additional ceiling space in the units to create, you know, 9-foot ceilings, not just have an 8-foot flat ceiling. Really create some interest, provide some really nice amenities, upgraded plumbing fixtures, you know, total toilets, you know, the faucets. Now Kohler makes it fairly inexpensive, or Delta makes it fairly inexpensive, as you don't really have to touch it, and granite countertops, stainless appliances, laundries in all the units, washers and dryers. So it'll be a great unit, I think, for individuals, and there's really nothing that's new, so.
Are these purchase or leased up?
They're planned to be leases. You know, I thought about it at one time as condos, but with the industrial area right off the bat, I was a little worried, but I think that would make a great condo site as well.
Yeah.
But,
What is the price range?
for the rents, the rents will start probably around 1,100, and they'll go up to about, you know, on a 3-bedroom at Regency, they're $3,500 a month for a 3-bedroom.
So you'd be competitive.
So I think we're hitting our 3-bedrooms at about 2,400 a month.
Are
It's
you,
good.
But there's a minimum amount of 3-bedrooms, there's not a lot, that's the least popular unit, but there's more 1s and 2s.
Ms. Cruz?
Are you then considering Regents Park your biggest competition in the area?
I don't think it's competition, it's just, there's demand, and I think, yeah, I would say it's very similar, a very similar complex, because that's probably one of the newer apartments in town, but even going in there, you know, they're kind of dated, you know, even now.
Which brings me then to maybe my next question or comment. I've been to the Regents Park Apartments, and I've done a tour, and so I know what you mean when you say they're dated and you're walking down the hallway and it kind of looks like a fancy hotel with carpet that needs to be replaced in the
Right.
wallpapers.
It's like the Grand Hotel.
Right, exactly, starting to look a little tired and whatnot. But when you go into the Regents area, the thing that struck me was it's very elegant.
Oh, the exteriors are
It
gorgeous.
is elegant,
Yeah, the
and so
landscape
you
is-
are immediately sort of drawn to the kind of elegance that
Yeah.
it has to offer. And it almost looks like, you know, you're coming into a resort area and you're immediately like, huh, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
But your design's leaning more towards the contemporary,
Mhm.
right? And I'm seeing that with more and more frequency. There seems to be maybe a movement away from something that's very traditional and elegant into something that is far more contemporary. And so how do you get away from avoiding that dated look yourself, particularly with fixtures that
Yeah,
are
we're-
considered more
I'm-
contemporary
yeah.
and keeping that elegance and style?
Less is more. You know, when you have bright spaces with nice floor covering. You don't need all that wallpaper and all that, you know, stuff in there. I'm a real contemporary, so our units, I think there'll be a lot of white. We'd like to use some marble, really make them, you know, nice, the Perigo floors. You're familiar with those? They're like wood floors, but they're very durable. I mean,
Have them
you
in my
can
basement.
spill water on them, and you can do anything, and if they get damaged, they're easy to repair. You don't have to repair the whole floor. So we're gonna look to use those types of materials. In the lobby areas, I wanna keep it real minimal with like just a nice contemporary piece of furniture with a lot of white and clean, you know, real clean design. I think that's what we're really looking to achieve here. And like I said, when you go in the units, when you see the plumbing fixtures and the types of sinks we're gonna use the undermounts, they're easy to keep clean, and the granite countertops. I mean, you're still looking at a lot of Formica on the old style cabinets at Regency. They're still getting a lot of money, but I'm looking to actually work with a cabinet supplier in the community by the Design Center. They carry very nice contemporary brands that you can use in these types of units, and our cabinets will be like 24 inches openings. A lot of times you see them at 12 and 18, so you have the bigger, wider doors, and just more, I think, contemporary. So I think that it'll maintain itself fairly well.
Any further questions for Mr. Schaefer? Mr. Krant?
I just wanted to applaud you on the addressing that turning radius that I mentioned earlier, and you addressed it immediately. I'm
Yeah.
glad to see that. I like what the architect has done to change the colors of the facades. One quick thought, will you be working with the restaurant owner on that landscaping?
Well, it's not really on his property. Yeah, I do, and I would like to talk to him about what he wants to do about his access. You know, I'm almost sure he wants to keep an access point here, and I guess if I had to put it here or here, I'd rather put it here because it's narrower and have more room to put green, but I wouldn't want to necessarily go through the middle, because if you look at that drawing and you look at this, you can see how we've kicked this out for the semi, and we've kind of eaten that up. So his other access point is probably somewhere right in here. I'm not so sure he's going to want to just let me use that access point. But I'm going to ask.
Mr. Hudson?
Let me follow up. You've certainly taken care of a left-hand turn with that radius.
Yes.
What if they want to go east and make a right-hand turn?
There's 2 lanes here. You go out, it's you just
So
go
we have to
out.
use the inside lane then making his right turn?
Well, if it's a semi-truck or something, they could come down the center, and as long as it was clear, they could make that turn. But the road commission didn't have as much concern on this radius on this side with trucks.
I'm going to be surprised.
Yeah.
They've got 2 lanes to turn into also, I guess.
Yeah, and you have 2 lanes, there's 3 lanes across there.
I guess if there's a traffic light, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
Sideswipe the car, that's all right.
We're next.
Yeah, really, if you really want to go all, I don't know if you can do this or not. Wouldn't it be nice if you could light those on the landscaping on the other side as well?
I'm sorry?
Not light those up.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I would consider doing that in the evening, because I'd like to see this lit up, and if I'm turning up the road, I can throw a conduit in the road and just get electrical over there. It's really gonna be up to the city, because that is your right of way. It's not our private property.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
unless there's, you know, we come up with some agreement where we swap and that becomes private property, but I don't think you want
That's
to
something
see.
that planning's gonna have to push. But I can see that's a very
We're
bad,
looking to do some street lighting, so if we can do that along this part, and even put some of that in there, and then continue it down here, and we're able to maybe put some in here, and maybe get a couple of the other building owners.
you really have a challenge there on that side.
Yeah, we really have to
Really
make
a challenge.
Axtell look,
Yeah.
you know, a lot prettier. I mean, listen, the alternative is I could be up against a neighborhood and have 300 residents here complaining. I think the industrial folks and all that are pretty happy about what's going on here.
Mr. Cable, you're next.
With the improvement.
Well, you're investing quite a bit, I agree.
Tell me again why you would not consider a drive onto the westerly parking lot of the
restaurant opposite your drive?
You mean here?
Yeah.
It's just gonna cut through all that green.
Yeah,
And
but
here
you're
it's
gonna make-
very narrow. The green is still narrow because that's the curve. And if
To
you
me,
see-
that's an extremely dangerous entrance and exit right there.
I agree, and if there is a way to move it, we'll work with the city to do that. This is pretty close, I would agree.
Give me an idea, how wide is that white swath that
I
you're?
think it's, what is it, about 12, 14 feet? Yeah.
Yeah, I would really encourage you to look
Try
at
to
that
line it up.
closely. Yeah, I think that would be a huge improvement for traffic circulation on that street, people coming and going.
Yeah.
Other question I have for you, on your elevations, I think they look very nice. How flat are they? Is there any undulation?
Oh,
with the colors?
yeah, actually, since we changed this, so you see these dotted lines, these are actually outdoor verandas now on the buildings. So you'll be able to, in some of these bedrooms, we're looking at doing door walls, so you'll actually be able to walk out of the bedroom onto a veranda, because it runs consistent, not like a bump out, like on the second, or on the third and fourth floors, you can see how the balconies are. There is, you know, some bump outs off on the sides, the lobby area, but again, this is, you know, all garage.
Let me ask
This
you
is your-
differently on the
Yeah.
same question. The reddish colored brick on the ends, kind of the book ends,
Mhm.
and then there's the brown brick in the middle.
Yeah.
Is that basically all in the same plane?
Yes. It is. Yeah. I mean,
I
the
think
the balconies will come out beyond the building. And you know what, and I will be prepared next time, I'm gonna ask the architect, because the architect made a comment at the meeting I was at last time, that there may be a little bit of relief on here, that the foundation actually should come in a little bit, but I'll be able to answer that
I
next
think it
time.
would be nice, I mean, I think the colors are nice, but I think if you could increase that definition a little bit, or differentiation a little bit with a little bit of in and out, and not, not screw up the whole floor plan and the floor plate, I think
Right.
that would be a...
I think there is, like in this area, this goes back a little bit where these balconies are, but again, the bottom floor, that's a
Right.
precast.
Yep.
Mr. Stratt?
Yeah, what is the material there? Is that brick or brick?
Yeah.
Is that ephes on the top?
On the top, it's EPIS, and then we're looking at brick.
And even the center portion that's coming down?
Yep, that
Looks like the same color as what you have on the top, on the lower
Um,
elevation, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, he's showing it as brick. Brick, do you have the updated one elevation that he sent the other day? Because he did make a couple changes.
Not,
And I'll have that blow out when we come back.
So that's a combination
Site plan,
of
yeah,
EPIS and
with
brick.
all the materials on there. But there were a couple of changes after our meeting, and we sent a revised copy to the township, or to the city, I'm sorry.
yeah, I didn't include it in this packet.
Okay.
But we'll
You'll
have
have it
it,
next
we'll have it for
time.
next meeting.
Yeah.
This is not a public hearing, but if there's anyone in the audience who would like to make a comment on this project? Okay. Any other comments? If not, we're going to move on. Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you.
Number 9 is public comment for items that are not on the current agenda. Seeing no one, we'll go to agenda item number 10, Planning Commission comment. Tonight, let's begin with Mr. Friend. Mr. Hudson? Mr. Hudson?
Yeah, Brent, where do we stand on the fracking ordinance?
It's funny you should ask. I sent a friendly reminder to the city attorney to give us her comments, and she took it home with her this evening.
Good. Okay, what's the next step then? It comes back to this table?
Yeah, we're at a stage where we think we've come up with a draft that reflects where we want to go.
Okay.
But before scheduling a public hearing, we just wanted to bounce it off the planning commission one more time, make sure you're happy with it. So
Then goes to a public hearing.
then public hearing,
Assuming that we say yes, where does it go from there?
then there'll be a city council announcement, then a city council public hearing for consideration.
And it gets adopted into the zoning ordinance.
I beg your pardon?
It gets adopted and it'll be a part of the zoning ordinance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I address Mr. Wolf? Mr. Wolf. Helen. Sorry.
Thought about many things.
Is council aware that we're looking at a fracking ordinance?
Well, I know the city manager is, but I don't know.
That's a lead into my next thought, that we don't have to adopt an ordinance, but the law, as I understand it, permits a city council to impose a 3-month moratorium on anything while they review something of such as that. Could I suggest that maybe somebody on city council, the city manager's office, suggest to council that this will be coming, and I don't know if anybody's going to do any fracking in the next 3 months or so, but it might not be a good idea, just prophylactically, to have them enact a 3-month moratorium while we finish the process.
It's a good suggestion.
That's all I have.
Mr. Tatum?
Do we have to take any action on Mr. Schaefer's project to postpone it or table it or anything like that?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Stratt?
I like the tall grass in front of the Kelly building. You seen how tall it is?
We'll get there.
Hopefully it'll grow, right?
Well, it's winter.
It is January, Tom, for crying out loud.
Yeah, but you still can see in January the cars, can't you?
Not next January.
I was assured by Randy Metz that they would,
I hope so. I hope when they're cut down, I hope they're not cut all the way down when they do. That's all I,
yeah.
because it was so great before. It really was. It was really a very outstanding project. It was a good demonstration.
But perennial,
Hopefully they'll-
but perennial grasses, they do need to be cut during the growing season.
I know.
At the beginning, yeah.
I know.
But they're a great plant.
I've had some.
And you can get some real height out of them, too.
And that's what he said, is they come back really quick. You cut them down, they grow back really quick in the spring, you get a lot of height, a lot of volume, and they're really durable.
And typically, they really are chopped really low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. So I don't know if you really understood the intent of what we were really trying to.
Yeah, well, I made it a point when I saw it,
Yeah,
I called,
mentioned that.
I spoke to him, he says, no, I hear you, and he says, you're gonna be happy with it.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Cruz?
I'm curious as to how we get more Mr. Schaefers to come into
Yeah.
town and do business.
That'd be
Seriously.
wonderful, right?
Well, when he's wildly successful with this, it's a copycat world, right? So when he's wildly successful with this, I mean, someone mentioned, can I?
Sure.
Someone mentioned a challenge, with Mr. Stratt, a challenge with Axtel. It's a challenge. I agree with that. It's also an opportunity, because with this success here, maybe the buildings across the street are repurposed, or there's more investment in, or what have you. So success breeds success, but I agree with you. He's been very responsive, and this project, if you think back 3 meetings ago, it keeps evolving, it keeps getting better. So,
You've got to make sure you take before and after them.
yeah, good point.
I think that'd be important.
I was just curious about the development that we approved last month, or at the last meeting, the redevelopment of that one site plan. Was were the stormwater improvements, were they gonna be updated to meet the current standards? Because I didn't see that on the plan, and I know he mentioned that, but
Well, yeah.
does the ordinance require that, or do the engineering standards
The
require?
engineering standards require it, and so the person that was at the meeting wasn't the person that Ben and I had discussion with. And so the person that we were working with, we had discussion with, and was working on the project, or seemed to be working on the project more, for whatever reason, I think it was on vacation, couldn't attend. So we actually primed him and said, listen, you're gonna have, every planning commission each member has their issues, and you're gonna be asked about stormwater detention, best practices. And what are you gonna say? And he said, well, the A, B, C, D, E. And they said, well, that's a great answer. He says, oh yeah, we take it seriously, we're gonna do a good job, and it was a great, remember when we had the discussion with him? And then we get to the meeting, he's not there. So then you ask the question that I told him they were gonna ask, and the guy's like, yeah, well, we'll just take care of it during final. I'm like, hold on a second,
There was nothing on the plans.
Yeah, so that's when I chimed in and talked about some of the things he was gonna do, but I'm not an engineer, so I Yeah, but
you would think we show basic,
Right.
basic concepts.
Right.
Of detention or underground
Right.
storage or basins or whatever, and there was nothing on the plan.
He's gonna have to bring the site up to standards.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Metzger? I have no comments, thanks. The only comment I had, I agree with Karen, I think we do need more Mr. Shavers, but I think the fact that he is going to be fairly competitive in the lease rates for this facility, that should make it more competitive, so, especially if Regency Park is really
They're full all the time.
right.
They're at full capacity, even at those prices. I mean, so they clearly appeal.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, I have no further comments, except that, next time we certainly will be welcoming Mr. Appahidian and Ms. Koopa, and that's about it.
Is there any, can you give us an idea what we may be seeing in the future planning commission meetings? Anything in the mill right now?
Well, we had a lot of preliminary discussion on projects along Big Beaver that have just have seemed to stall for whatever reason. Hopefully it's just kind of the Christmas and early New Year lull. But, you think of anything that's gonna come down the hopper?
We don't have anything formally submitted at this point. A lot of conversations, but kind of waiting for them to come back and give us revised plans, so, nothing formal.
I know there's a residential developer who you've seen quite a few times who's talked about some projects that are lining up and ready to go, but he hasn't met with me on them. I just bumped into him in the hallway, and he said, yeah, I'll be before you pretty soon with some projects. So I think we're kind of at a tipping point waiting for some projects to fall. Wish I had more concrete projects for you.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Brent, for development along Big Beaver, is it going to be, in your guesstimation, more of what we saw at the last meeting, where you have the modern-day strip plaza wanting to come in and pepper that corridor?
Yeah,
That
I mean-
world-class corridor?
Yeah, I mentioned about 2 minutes ago that it's a copycat world, and that's kind of a double-edged sword. I think what we saw last week, I'm glad to see reinvestment. We've got still a fairly significant office vacancy rate, so it's good to see some repurposing, but at the same time, I think we're at the point, we're going to talk about this when we talk about the Big Beaver component of the master plan update. Is it time we started mandating multiple stories along Big Beaver
I think it
instead of
is.
one story?
I-
It's
Yes.
overdue.
I see a lot of heads going up and down.
Mhm.
Yes.
We talked about this, and I'm happy to see investment, but I think it might be time to,
Don't be short-sighted.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just
I would say no
disappointing.
to some projects.
right.
Just disappointing.
Right, just don't be short-sighted. I mean, this is a long-term plan, a long-term
Right.
vision. It's
And-
okay to say no, to
and
get
we-
to where you want to be
Right.
eventually.
And we talked about strategies, like how do we accomplish it, and, and we're getting ahead of ourselves, so we're a meeting away with the master plan, but just something to chew on and think about. The easy way is to say you just can't do one story, it's gotta be two-story. Or you can take a more sensitive approach, and maybe if you wanna do one story, it's a special use permit, and you have to justify why you can't do multiple stories. Maybe the market still hasn't come around where it justifies it. I don't know what the answer is, because we want the reinvestment, but at the same time, world-class corridor, and it seems to me, and I can't put a number on it, but it seems to me that it's time that we started getting that, just the more density on Big Beaver.
Well, I think it's just gonna be monotonous if we get, like Karen says, the same thing we had last, that's gonna be peppered all the way along Big Beaver. That soon gets old.
We were form-based, start at the mountaintop and go down, and we got a flat mesa now developing on 16 Mile.
Yeah.
See, it seems to me that what we should be doing, in my opinion anyway, is what we're doing with the nodes at the intersection. We should be doing the same thing along Big Beaver. We can't have everything all have, in my opinion, the form-based code concept. If we had a variety and focus on those areas, I think that was the intent when the study was done, was not to do the whole thing in one shot. and the monotonous that we were talking about. Even the setback is not just a height, but it's a combination. If we, you know, the thing that I get excited about, as I mentioned even on this project that was just before us, I look at Grand Rapids. It's a combination of both the city as well as the developer that created the interest in the public areas as well as the private areas. I mean, they develop the lighting, they develop things that really are not a part of the developer's project or his responsibility. But that's what created those nodes in Grand Rapids, which is really great. And I wish we could do something like that on Big Beaver. We can talk all we want. No one's gonna walk down there with 50 and 60 mile an hour traffic going through. I mean, it's not gonna happen. I don't care what we do, in my opinion. We have to slow down that traffic, and, you know, what was the doctor's name that used to be the traffic engineer? But anyway, he lengthened the lights so that the whole thing is much larger, and they're just speeding down there. I mean, Big Beaver is really a highway. It really is not a residential type or a type of street. It's a continuation of, and it's a metropolitan parkway.
But it is
Even the
45
lighting.
It is 45 mile an hour speed limit.
Yeah, who does 45? They're 55. Really, they're really zooming, because they have a long span. They can really go for a long time.
I hit all the red lights. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah. You go between Liberties and the Arbor area here and see how fast they're going. Or they're going in front of Champs. I mean, they're really moving up.
So when we updated the ordinance and came up with the concept of the form-based, which was very, I think, forward-thinking, and we were one of the first communities to really take this approach, we were in a low point of the recession. I mean, we started that project and the ordinance in, 2009, and that was, that was a pretty dark time. So in 2009, we were real happy to see one-story investment on Big Beaver. We really were.
Yeah.
But, times have changed, and I think we're at a point where, so this is a preview of what we're going to be talking about here at a future meeting.
Well, you've got parking to contend with too. And it'd be great if they could actually fill in the gap like the top of Troy Building. I mean, that parking lot is empty. I mean, even if it were fully occupied, it's still empty. I think there's a lot of sites up and down Big Beaver that developments could be done in front of the existing development without harming them.
Right. And the code allows for that.
The only problem is, if you go up, you need more parking. Do we have enough space to do that?
Yeah.
So now you've got,
Mr.
we have to be flexible, is what I'm
Mr.
trying to say.
Tagle, please.
Would you guys consider talking to some people developers that we can trust and talk to them about this? I'm a little bit concerned if a developer comes in and say, you justify why you can't go 2 stories, they'll come up with the numbers. And I don't know that I necessarily, trust what they're coming up with, because that's not what they want to build. They want to build this, so they're going to make their case to build this. But I mean, maybe consider talking to some allies, some people that, we feel comfortable with and can really tell us, what's it like out there? What are the opportunities? And what would make a deal viable for someone to say, hey, look, we want you to build 2 stories, this is what it'll take.
Yep. Good input.
I just have one quick question. The hotel by the Galleria, weren't there supposed to be 2 hotels there?
Yeah, the plan all along was to construct the first one, and that was completed to start the second one.
There's still room for the second one? Okay, very good. Okay, if there's no further comments, we're adjourned, folks.